In November of 2024, at a Blue Mountain Blacksmith Guild event, this question was posed. Could you make Feather Damascus in a canister using nothing but powder? I didn't think it could be done, but was willing to try. Welcome back to Rusty Iron Forge and the Canister Feather Damascus Challenge Finale, Part 1.
About ready to turn her. You gotta work these in your forge the same way like you do a rotisserie. You know, you gotta turn them until they're completely cooked. But really, what we're looking for, we're going to continue to turn this until it stops leaving a shadow on the bottom of the brick. Oh, it's kind of warm on the face. Let's not do that again. At least not that close. We have our new dies right there. They're really good. Now here is the old dies for comparison here, and you can just see the difference in surface area that the new ones give me. A little bit more control, a little less of that tube of toothpaste feel to them. At least that's in hope is what we're looking to do here. So we won't know until we get it out of the can whether it worked or not. So yeah, all we can do is continue forging on. Light presses for sure. But yeah, that surface area there is doing nothing but help. Either way you look at it. So this is like the second press we're on right now, and I'm gonna take a look in there. It's really hot. I don't want to get much closer than that, but we're looking at about 1900, maybe 2000 degrees. Now, if you're doing like a wet weld, stuff like that, you'd be hitting around. With the press, maybe a little lower with the wet weld, but hand hammering it for sure, you're looking at like 2150. That, you know, yellow to bright yellow. We're at like an orange, still kind of an orange color. It looks yellow on your screen, but it's really kind of a really bright orange moving into the yellows. And so we're about 2000 degrees, maybe 2050 degrees, somewhere around in there. But yeah. It's pretty hot. Another thing that is different about these, that was hot, don't do that. These, don't touch that. Yeah, ooh, lost my train of thought. They're made out of 4140 high carbon. These are also high carbon, but they're a mystery steel. And these are really good. But those other ones, the new ones, they just are working great. They're allowing me to have better control over the press, and because there's so much more surface area there, they're kind of soaking up more of that heat, and they're getting hotter faster, which is also allowing that can to stay hotter the longer we go. So it's really nice. We're getting a really uniform press on it. It's actually looking and feeling just like the hand tool did, which is good, because we know that billet had no cracks in it whatsoever. That's what we're going for. So what you want to take away from this is, don't touch hot dies. They don't feel very good. No, they don't. We're gonna take this, and the steel's made. Steel's made. It's in there. We're gonna let it cool down. I'm gonna go shut this off here. We're gonna take our fan out. And we just gotta let that cool down now. Next step, draw out our steel. Okay, so we did end up getting the can off, and well, let's go show you what it looks like here. I will tell you that we did have just a little bit too hard of a press on it. Not a lot. Those new dies really worked out great, but this is what we have going on here. Just a few cracks right in here that we ended up squeezing it too hard, which then did that kind of tube of toothpaste thing, you know? So what we gotta do is we gotta put it in the forge. Forge is on, as you can hear. You turn up just a little bit. Yeah, gotta get that fire-breathing dragon going on. What we're gonna do is we need to get this thing heated and then fluxed, and then do a vertical press on this. Now, am I going to knock us off and say, oh, we got to start over? It's not, you know, true Canister Feather Damascus towards the challenge. Absolutely not. Because the fact of the matter is that I need to build some kiss blocks for that so we don't press as hard. But we've proven that Canister Feather Damascus can be made in a canister by hand with absolutely no other welding going on. So basically the challenge is over at this point, and we're moving strictly on towards making our Fairbairn Sykes dagger, right? And if you don't know what a Fairbairn Sykes dagger is, here is a picture of one right here. And what they are is they were a World War II issue fighting knife for the British, and very good knife. You know, it's a historical knife. It has all the makings of a modern very modern freaking blade. Where we may change it slightly, you know, just to help us out a little bit. This will actually be my first dagger I'm making. Not my first diamond grind, but it'll be my first diamond grind on a piece of Damascus. So, and that all makes sense when we get to that point. But yeah, this morning, what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw the piece in the forge, get it all fluxed up, and get over the press and vertically press it. Let's go do that. We need to make sure that this does not oxidize. So we're going to dump this in WD-40 before we put it in there. Now, WD-40 is good enough where you don't have to do anything else to it. You don't got to really put another flux on it at that point, but it does help if you do. So then we'll put our borax on it when it's heated up, and we will do a vertical press on it, squish those down, close up those openings there, and then forge it back out. It responded to the vertical press really nicely. We got one more press in the vertical, and then we'll be good. Gotta close up all those gaps, and then we'll be able to grind out anything that shows up after that. So once we get the vertical press done, what we'll end up doing is we'll end up putting the flat dies in there and drawing this thing out. Nice and slow, nice and light. Stick on there. Now, maybe ask yourself, how do you know which side is what? Well, inside the can that we put all this in, there's a rib in there where they weld the metal together to make the tube steel, and that rib leaves a mark on the billet itself. And I inserted our quill in line with that rib, and you can see that rib right there. So we're going to be squishing it down right here. Now, are those cracks fully closed up? Yes and no. Are they going to be good enough? Absolutely. We're going to take this really light presses, and we'll freaking start drawing this down into a piece of flat bar. not going to go and do any kind of heavy fuller on there just yet. We need to take some more small bites, and once we get it down just a little bit more, we get it kind of massaged all together, we make sure those cracks aren't going to open back up, then we can take and throw on our fullering dies and really draw this thing out. So at least 2 more heats before we do that. We're going to change out for these other dies here, our fullering dies. Now you really want to take it light when you do these fullering dies. We're just looking to lengthen everything. We're not looking to distort it terribly bad. So just be, when you're doing your own, just be really careful with how hard you do these. Whether you're doing them by hand or not, whether you're using a spring fuller or whatever you're using to draw this out, don't overdo it. Take it slow, take a few heats, do it right. Pretty hot. It's the only downside to these like this is that these bolts get really hot. The only problem I have with this system, sometimes it's a real pain in the butt and a good way to get burned when you're changing this stuff out, especially with the box wrench. Obviously, it'd be better with a ratchet and socket, but all that stuff broke. My last ratchet broke, and I just haven't bought a new one. All right. So with these last 2 presses, what we did is we elongated it and widened it. Now we're getting a little bit of a lighter press on the ends and a harder press in the middle. So what we need to do is we need to clean up those ends, make them exactly the same thickness as that middle part here, and make sure that we're pressing this evenly. So we're getting there. We're getting there. It's going to be pretty soon. We're going to be done with forging the steel and on to forging the blade. gonna go back to the flat dies here. These are gonna be warm. Bolts are hot. These dies are still hot. I keep dropping everything. I really need to get a new socket. For sure. I'm going the wrong way with that. Prominently. That's hot. Here we are. We're about, I'd say about 9 inches long. We're gonna stick this back in the forge. We're right about probably almost a ½ inch, maybe a little less. So we're gonna stick this in the forge. We're gonna anneal it, and then we'll be on to forging out our blade. We ground it a little bit. That's a pretty cool pattern on it. We're not going to show you quite yet though. We are going to do, we're going to shove this in the forge, and we got to forge it down on one side a little bit to even out our pattern. A little bit more, it's a little off center line, I guess I should say. Our quill, as we force it out, isn't running directly center, so we have more on one side. So we got to just kind of forge it down on one side, kind of match them up, and then we can start profiling our piece. So we have our piece in there. It's getting heated up. Maybe I have to push it in a little bit more. What we're trying to do is upset one side of our billet and not the other. Yes, I know that when we go to flatten that out, it's going to banana out, but we're going to have to play with it back and forth to make sure we get our quill running down the center of our billet. And we got to force this down anyways because it's way too tall for what we need. It needs to be right around, at the widest, probably we're looking at 1.25 inches, thereabouts. So that's what we're shooting for. It's about 1.25 inches wide. And about 12 inches long. We're definitely going to get longer than that, but about 12 inches long is what we need. We're squeezing that down, right? And it's getting upset. It's starting to mushroom on that one side because we're using the bottom side that we really don't want to mess with as kind of an anvil for it to push against. So on this next heat, we're going to need to start flattening it back out. That mushroom, that upset spot, we're going to flatten back out. Now, that is going to cause a banana or a bow to happen in the direction of the side we were using as an anvil. If it does, and you're doing it, don't freak out, it's easy to fix. Close enough. What we need to do now is determine our direction of travel with our pattern. We need to work on the nose of our piece, and then we can go back 6 inches and work on the tang of the piece. So the reason you want to forge in a rough profile, whatever blade you're making when you're using Damascus, is you want to shrink that pattern. Otherwise, you just forge out your billet and then you cut it out. It's going to be the same size as what it was before you cut it out. Especially with this canister feather, we want to make those details finer, so we shrink them down. We make them smaller. So we'll be forging in every bit of this blade, all the major profile, and then we'll grind it out of what we have left. So making it slightly bigger than what we actually need it, so we grind back to where we need it. And it's thicker than what we need it. So we're going to gain more depth by leaving it this thick and then grinding it back. So we're probably 3/8 of an inch thick right now. We're gonna want it final thickness of probably about 3/16. That's what I'm gonna be shooting for. So we have a lot of steel to work with here and a lot of room to play with, but we have to get this shrunk down and our profile forged in first. we're planishing that back, getting our thicknesses really close. We're really close on the profile. I'll be able to screw around with it, you know, but I want that pinch at the nose, and I want it to get wider, bigger pattern as you get back towards the ricasso area and the guard. We're really close. We're really close to being able to do the tang portion, and then it's literally just cut it out and grind. Yeah, I think you might be able to see a little bit of it in there. Maybe not, it might be too hot. Yeah, I think it's too hot. That's where our 6-inch mark is, give or take, close enough. It's a little bigger than what we need it. That's okay. We don't need all of this steel, but we could use part of this steel for our guard. So we're going to be cutting off about 2.5 inches, about 2.5, 3 inches of this piece right here. Then we'll be right back over at the press. And there is your rough forged Fairbairn Sykes. Extremely rough forged, but yeah, that's good to go. Now there's so much stress built up into this. We have to anneal this. So we're gonna put this in the forge, it's gonna heat up, and we're gonna shut the forge off, and we're gonna let it cool down. You have to do it. There's just too much stressors built into it. Now, speaking of annealing, the best way of doing this is getting a clay-based litter to where you can put it in like a bucket or something where you can have 6 inches all the way around, 360 degrees from your piece, heat it up to critical temperature, stick it in that clay-based litter, cover it up, and walk away. And you don't come back to it until it's cool to the touch. So I mean, that could be days. We're gonna freaking do an annealing cycle on this, and we'll do a normalization cycle on it when we come back to it. So we're leaving it big, we're leaving it thick, so now we can grind down to what we need. All right, we're gonna kind of flatten it out a little bit, but for the most part, we're onto the grind, we're onto the rough grind stage, and we're gonna get this thing all mapped out. It'll start to really look like, you know, a dagger-shaped object. Oh, it has been a day. Let me tell you what. Got a bunch done this morning. It's freaking outstanding. I was really pleased with it. Pulled the footage off. Went to go upload it. And my computer didn't recognize it. Said that the disk needed to be formatted. Couldn't even pull up any of the information on any of the off the discs. Oh well. This is what we did today. We took our knife, blank, we shouldered. We put shoulders right around, all the way around our tang. We recessed right here. We recessed down for a ricasso to give us a blade break from in between the guard that's going to be here and the cutting edge. Makes it easier to keep sharp and sharpen. It's just a very small modification from a traditional Fairbairn Sykes. So we made some changes. Let's put it that way. Made some changes, small changes, but still changes nonetheless. Let's take a look at what we've done here. First, to the blade, we took out our shoulders and put some nice sweeps back in there, and I like the look of that better. It brings the cutting edge a little bit farther away from the guard. And I was looking at the original schematic of a Fairbairn Sykes, and there was some writing on it that basically said the only thing that makes a Fairbairn Sykes is the handle portion, its specific shape, right? Everything else can be customized. We're going to go with that. We're going to make our Fairbairn Sykes and it's close to, like, the other one was like 6 9/16 inches of blade length. This is going to be probably 5 3/4, somewhere around in there, of cutting edge. Now, how you traditionally mark blade length is from the initial point of penetration to the final stop is your blade length. So in this case, it would be from the point to the guard, to the face of the guard. And however long that is how long your blade length is. All right. We have our guard. Now in the schematic it says the guard's like 1/8 of an inch, and our guard is going to be as wide, as thick as our tang, about 3/16 of an inch, give or take. Now what we need to do with this guard is put a slot in it. Now I'm not entirely worried about getting the feather quill on this completely centered. Yes, if I was making a piece that was a show piece, that was a absolute, you know, a master's freaking showcase type thing, of course I would make sure everything was centered. I'm just building a knife out of some good looking steel. That's all I'm doing, and with the hopes to maybe sell it. I mean, that's all I'm doing. We're going to be taking this punch drift right here that we made, that is of the same dimensions of our tang on our dagger, and we are going to punch drift through our guard. doing this a couple times here, and all we're trying to do is just fit the shoulders of our dagger flush against the outside face of our guard. And we're gonna, as we grind this down and get it set before we quench it and etch it and all that stuff, we're gonna keep on putting that in there to make sure that our shoulders lie flat and flush against that face.
In order to keep the weight in the pommel or in the handle, what we have to do is we're going to need to put a pommel on this. Now how we're going to do that is we're going to take and turn my drill press into a lathe, basically. And how we do that is we're just going to chuck up some of this brass that I've threaded in here. Is it perfect? No. Is it freaking loud? Absolutely. All right, so here is the bit that we're going to be drilling our sleeve hole into. So this is the size that we need to get that to. The bit says that we are, it is a 27/64. So we're going to be going to 27/64 with this. And I have a line marked. I don't want to go above that line. And we take our files and we come in here and we just file this down. Done in the past. It does work. Not too bad. Getting there. We need to bite in a little bit. We got quite a ways to go. That is for sure. We need to get one of these. I think I'm gonna use this half round here on the flat side to really get a good edge. Or let's see here. Let's try that. We got a ways to go. We got ourselves some more of our files here. Square file, I think that's gonna work the best. I just need to get my other drill press set up so that this, I can just have this, one of these set up as just a mill all the time. I'm almost threading the outside of it. You gotta get some sandpaper. That's pretty funny. There's like, because it's just grooving it, right? So we need to get some sandpaper and run around that real quick. All right, we have some 46 grit here, or some 40 grit.
Almost. Almost. That is so close. Just ever so slightly. There we go. We're pretty good. Yeah. Not too bad. Not too shabby. So what we do is we screw our stud all the way through, and then we peen it over, and then we just round all that. We just round that off into a finial, and it's pretty good stuff. I mean, it's not entirely square, but it's not that big a deal. I don't think it's that big a deal. It's gonna be good. It's gonna look good. It's gonna be outstanding. I'm gonna love it. But this is also gonna allow us to hold this knife together in mock-up a whole lot easier. And we're not gonna need to drill any pinholes, which is also good. So we just put that on there and call it good. I hope we didn't screw this up. Pretty sure we didn't, but we're gonna have to put a little spacer in there, something on there, because it needs to cover up everything.